We're excited to have Chris Nettleton join us today from Minnesota. As a child, Chris aspired to be a comedian. So I'm hoping for some good jokes today. Okay.
Can't promise.
He also loved participating in sports, and being born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he especially loved hockey. When he graduated college, both passions coalesced when he began his career in broadcast journalism, spending 15 years working in broadcast news and more than a decade as a local TV sports anchor. He liked to say he had the best job. He would go to watch sports and talk about sports and get paid for it. So, with no further ado, Chris Nettleton, everybody.
I'm Chris Nettleton, and that is my email address. So if you have any questions or just want to chat with me after this whole thing is done, feel free to send it to that. Just make sure to spell Nettleton right. It's been spelled in many different ways. It's been spelled Middleton for some reason, and Nettleton. I was announced as Chris Nettleton at a hockey tournament, which at the beginning of it you're like, great, now I got to go on net. All right, awesome. But, whoa, sorry, I apologize. Yes, no hands in my pocket. And after, and I think my favorite way of spelling it is a way that my beautiful bride spelled it when I was playing old man hockey. At least that's what I was calling it. Just pickup hockey, and I was playing goalie, and she made a sign for me to go to the pickup game. No one even goes to the pickup games, let alone create a sign. And I was Chris Nettleton with 2 D's and L-E-T-O-N. And I never told her that was wrong until she realized it was wrong. I don't know if that's the Minnesota nice in me or me just not wanting to screw things up because that was at the beginning of our relationship. But so make sure to get it right, and I will definitely be your guy to answer any questions or even just chat about things. As they kind of mentioned, my early ambition I'm moving to this one. All right. So my early ambition in life really was. Thank you, wife, for not hitting the button. All right. As I mentioned, it was kind of sports. It was sports, and then a little bit more sports. I assume a lot of people are that way. But it wasn't long before I realized I wasn't going to be a professional football player, or a professional baseball player, or hockey player, or tennis player, or even throwing for track, as I did in high school. But I enjoyed, at the same time, making people laugh. I actually did a stand-up comedy routine when I was a middle schooler, so I was in 7th grade, and I did stand-up comedy at my talent show. It was a little frightening, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And then in high school, I was part of an improv kind of comedy, they called it comedy sports. But if you've seen Whose Line It Is Anyway, that's pretty much the same thing that we did. And you got to think off of the top of your head and just kind of go off the cuff, which was a lot of fun. So then at the time, everybody was watching SportsCenter and watching Keith Olbermann and Dan Patrick do the sports and then also have fun and make people laugh. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I could do that because for some reason, I am the only kid in the world that thought, I'd like to be a stand-up comic, but there's no insurance. So I need to find a job where there's insurance. Maybe that was foreshadowing, I don't know. But I decided, let's go that route, and I had to work really, really hard in order to become that TV sports guy. So I knew I was going to have to do that, and in college, I had 6 internships. And I would say my grades suffered for having 6 internships, but those 6 internships led to 2 of the jobs that I've had. So, next slide, please, wife. Thank you. I went to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. And that meant I was very close to WHO TV, which is in Des Moines, Iowa. And I will tell you a story about one of the experiences I had while I was there. I was the guy that would come in early if the sports guys didn't want to come in early. So there was an event at the Bob Feller Museum in Van Meter, Iowa. Beautiful downtown Van Meter, Iowa. And they said, hey Chris, can you go to this? And it was at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and most of the sports guys don't get until about 1 o'clock, maybe noon. So I came into the station. I'm wearing a new shirt because I'm going to meet Hall of Famer Bob Feller, right? And I get in the car and I'm driving out to the Bob Feller Museum, and I get there and I realize, holy goodness, Tommy Lasorda is there too. So Tommy Lasorda, the manager of the Dodgers for a long time, and Bob Feller are sitting there, and they're signing autographs, and I think to myself, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? It's just me by myself. I got a camera on my shoulder and a microphone like this, doing the interviews. And Tommy Lasorda says to me, so is it just you? And I said, no, it's just me, Tommy. And he says, well, are you going to be able to do it? And I said, well, I guess I'll try. And he goes, you don't try. You either do it or you don't do it. I'd get a truck driver in here to try. I'm like, my goodness. I'm not a Dodger, but he's coaching me up. I tell this story to a lot of different people, but what I don't tell is that on my way out to Van Meter, I was hungry in the morning, so I thought, hey, I'll stop by and get one of these like yogurt granola parfait things at McDonald's. I don't know why, I don't even eat McDonald's, but whatever. So it has like blueberries and fruit all in it, and I'm driving along, and I'm sort of kind of trying to eat this because I'm in a rush, and I'm seeing these black things out of the corner of my eye. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And then I see one again and I try to catch it. And I don't ever catch it, but what I do catch is my yogurt parfait all over my front of my new shirt and blueberry. So I pull over, it's winter time, and I try to figure out what I'm going to do. I call my mom, because that's what every 18-year-old does, right? I call my mom, and she suggests picking up some snow and wiping it into my shirt so that the blueberry goes away. I don't think it ever went away, and I think that might have something to do with why Tommy Lasorda decided to yell at me later on in the day. But that was a blast, working at WHO TV and covering teams like the Iowa Cubs and things like that. That was early on in my career, and so was KTIV in Sioux City. That was another job that I got because I had an internship, and that was really my first real job after graduating Drake, which was interesting because I got paid half as much as I got paid when I graduated from high school and I had my first job, which was data entry. So I thought that was 4 years well spent. My first full-time job came in Great Falls, Montana, beautiful Great Falls. Has anyone ever been to Great Falls? All right, awesome. This is not a place probably you want to be when you're 23 years old. There are very few people there between the age of, I would say, 18 and 35. So as a college graduate, it was an interesting experience. I thought I was going to Montana. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in the mountains. It's going to be beautiful. Instead, it looked like North Dakota, and you could sort of see the mountains if you were on your tiptoes and looked out there. But it was a great job and a great learning experience. Although I did have kind of a rude awakening. I showed up, and about a week later, I went from being the weekend sports guy to the sports director, because the sports director said, hey, you know that other station in town? I'm going to go and work for them. You're the sports director now. Good luck. And it was football season, so that was a blast. Does anybody watch Fox in the Denver area here? It was a not a long time, but a guy named Chris Tanaka that was on the sports there. I gave him his first on-air job at that station. So that's just a bit of trivia. Next, please, wife. Thank you. Vanna White, right?
I have a name.
Yes, Megan, sorry. So when I got done with Montana, I thought, well, I'll never go back to Montana. And then my next call back from a station was in Missoula, Montana. Funny how it works out that way. I got to be the sports director, and I also got to do play-by-play for the Montana Grizzlies. And if anybody knows Montana Grizzly football, it's like the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin. The Montana Grizzlies are a big deal. And I can't say that I ever felt more famous than when I was the play-by-play guy of the Montana Grizzlies. So I'll show you a little bit. The video has not aged well, much like myself. So take a look.
First and 10 for Hartman to hand it off to Jefferson Heidelberger. He tries to find it around the left end. He finds some room. The first down and more out to the 40, 45, crossing the 50, down to the 40. One man to beat. Can he do it to the 20, 15? Nice block, and he's into the end zone. One play, one touchdown. Montana Grizzlies. Who cares who's your quarterback if you can just hand it off to Jefferson Heidelberger on the end around?
Craig outside of the shotgun. And Justin Green is back there with him. Cal Poly brings it, they just go up top. Willie Walden, touchdown, Montana Grizzlies. First touchdown of his Montana Grizzly career, Craig Oates. Even with
Does anybody remember Craig Oates?
To throw the football
He was supposed to be
quarterback,
like the next
trouble through the air.
great quarterback. He went to Colorado, and then he had a bunch of concussions, and then he ended up playing for University of Montana. And then he had a look in the NFL for about half a second, but that didn't work out. But that was a ton of fun. And also a ton of fun is that I got to meet Megan, my beautiful bride, sitting up here and using the clicker for me. So I appreciate that. My next job, I got a phone call from WDIO in Duluth, Minnesota, and they said, hey, you applied for this job when you were looking for a job in between your Montana gigs. Are you interested in coming here? And I thought I would be able to come home, and I was given the chance to do play-by-play for the University of Minnesota Duluth Bulldog hockey team, which I love hockey. So that was another thing that brought me back. So I decided to come back. But the news director that had said, hey, come here and you can be the play-by-play guy, said, when I arrived, said, hey, I accidentally hired another play-by-play guy. So that didn't last as long as I had hoped it would, but I love Duluth, and I did some great work up there, and I enjoyed it. So my next stop was KSTP in Minneapolis, where I got to be a producer and a writer for a station that was really well known and Emmy Award winning, and that was great, except I didn't get to be that guy on the air, that guy who actually presented it. I got to write it and then hand it off to somebody else, and then they did it. And I thought, well, that's nice, but I kind of missed that part, that presenting part of it. So I got a phone call from WDEF in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Has everyone been to Tennessee or Chattanooga? I can tell you right now, it is hot, right? It is very, very hot. It's one of the places that I grew up in Minnesota, so the summers are really hot in Minnesota and humid. But what happens is that the weather works up, and then all of a sudden you get rain later on in the day, and the rain usually cools it off a little bit. Well, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the rain just makes it hotter. And for a guy like me that didn't really like the warm weather, and a guy like me that I didn't know at the time, but has MS, the warm weather did not work with me, especially when I'm wearing a suit and trying to run around and do interviews with people. So I got another phone call from a news director that I had known from my time in Duluth, and she said, I want you to come up and start this sports department in Duluth at the Fox station. And I thought the Fox station just kicked off, just started, and I thought I could be there in the ground up and start building it. So that's what I did. For 3 years, I built what I think is the best sports department in Duluth, with a lot of help from my news director and a lot of freedom from my news director. She was willing to let me do sports the way that I wanted to do sports, and I had a ton of fun and won a couple of Emmys, as I mentioned, and I got to do stories like this one right here.
But this is all my grandchildren.
Trudy Berggren's a lot like any other 75-year-old grandmother in Superior, Wisconsin. She loves her grandkids, and if you've got a minute, she'll even show you pictures of all 14. But every single one of them knows Sunday is football day at Grandma's house.
And that's true, sir. That is the honest truth. They better not bother me.
But how does somebody who grew up in Germany and didn't even move to the U.S. until her mid-20s even become a football fan?
When I first came to the States, I didn't know nothing about football. But then I got so enthused about it, and I just love it, and I'm not missing a game.
And when it comes to those games, there's one team that stands head and shoulders above the rest. Any guesses?
When the Packers play, I'm glued. I'm glued to TV. I just get so excited and my blood pressure goes up, hoping that they win.
Touchdown, Green Bay.
And as the green and gold racked up those wins, Trudy tallied her Nettleton treasures.
Now listen to this. This chair was made for me, and I sit in there every Sunday. World's greatest football team, and that's the truth. This is Brett Favre's, that's his menu in the back. But I didn't wanna, I didn't wanna throw it away. So this friend of mine framed it for me, and it's in my bedroom. And when I get out of bed, Mr. Favre is there, Brett. Whenever I see somebody going to Green Bay or hear somebody going to Green Bay, I have them pick me something up because they all know what I need.
Trudy is such a big fan of the Packers, she even plans her work schedule around the Packers schedule. And after 25 years here at the Shack, they're willing to accommodate.
I do not work on Monday nights because I want to watch the football game.
Not the easiest decision for somebody who takes as much pride in their job as Trudy does.
I put my heart and soul in to serve the customers right. I mean, the cooks put in their care and I serve with pride. Oh my goodness, look at this Green Bay Packer head. Oh.
But when push comes to shove, some things just aren't negotiable.
And that's what true Green Bay Packer fans are. I mean, they support their team no matter what.
And Trudy is a true fan. In Superior, Wisconsin, for the Packers pregame show, I'm Chris Nettleton. So I love Trudy. I actually, we had a little bit of a relationship with Trudy after we did this story. She would invite us over to her house and make us pie. Things like that. She was great.
When you went to Green Bay, you bought her a cheese head.
I did. I bought her a cheese head when I was at Lambeau Field, and she thought I was the greatest person.
Would have been better if it was Broncos.
I know. I did that was a hard choice for me. I had to decide if I was going to show it or not.
You wore an orange tie.
Yeah, well, there you go. Exactly. So, one of the things, though, that was difficult for me is that when I was in Duluth, it was also the time that I was diagnosed. I love playing hockey and I love playing goalie, and I was playing pickup hockey like I had done every single week pretty much ever since I was up there. And I started to feel numbness in my feet when I was done, in both of my feet. And my first response was, well, that's strange. And I flop around in net and I twist around, and who knows, maybe I tweaked something. But then a few days later, it's still there. And a few days later, it's still there. So I went to my doctor, and my doctor once again thought, oh, no big deal. It's probably you just pinched a nerve or something. We'll take a look at an x-ray. The x-rays were clean. He did a handful of tests. There is even a test where he was trying to, I guess, test, I can't even remember exactly, but like my nerves firing correctly. So he like shoved a metal probe into my calf, and then I had to flex it, and it was a horrible experience. And I don't know if that was just a cruel joke or what he was doing, but
Sounds like it.
yeah, right. So, but apparently everything was functioning, so that wasn't the problem. And then my doctor said, well, you've got one last thing that I think you should check out. Go to this neurologist, Dr. Chrysostomos. And I went to him. He said, let's get an MRI. And I got an MRI. And along with some spotting on my spine, I had a pretty big spot in my brain. And he said, well, you've got either two things. You have MS or you have a brain tumor. And he said, what we'll do is we will start you on an IV steroid for a couple of days. We'll take another MRI and we'll check it out. If it shrinks, it's MS. And if it stays there, it's a brain tumor. So he told me that in front of you and in front of my mom. And they were crying and I was trying to figure out what I was going to possibly do. And I realized that I guess I was pulling for MS. I didn't want a brain tumor, which is weird. And a few days after we had my second MRI, Dr. Chrysostomos said, well, the scarring in your brain shrunk, so you have MS, which I don't know if anyone else has been in that situation, but it was a relief. Not just because I know a lot of people have that experience when they finally get a diagnosis. It's like, okay, now I know what's wrong with me, I can attack it. But it was a relief just to be like, okay, well, I don't have brain cancer. That's good. Now I have something that I can fight. And we immediately went on a therapy. It was a 1 week, once a week injectable therapy. And I hate needles. I was the kid in the doctor's office that would run out every time he needed to have blood work taken. So that was extremely difficult for me. So I had to enlist the help of Megan, my wife, and we had a whole system set up. Every Sunday night, I would put a little circle on my leg and then ice it up and just wait there until it got as numb as it could. And then Megan would inject me. Although the first time, she was so concerned with hurting me that she couldn't do it. And then when she finally did, she started crying. So I was consoling her after she had stuck a needle in me, which was a little strange. We also had a system where originally she would count. Did anybody do this where they're the 1, 2, 3, and then go? That's horrible because sometimes Megan got gun shy and she'd say, 1, 2, 3, no, wait. And what do you mean, no, wait? Just do it. So we decided to replace that with okay, I'm ready. Are you ready? And she said, yes, I'm ready. And then she'd inject me. And we did that for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. And that seemed to worked out pretty well for us, to be honest. But before we even got that prescription, Dr. Chrysostomos had given me like a prescription. He's like, okay, now you just need to fill it. And I don't know, I'm a dumb guy. I just went to Walgreens and I gave it to them. And then Walgreens calls me up to the front and says, okay, that'll be $3,000. I said, well, I have to do this every month? And they're like, yep. And I said, I don't think I make $3,000 a month. So I literally had a breakdown in Walgreens and I didn't know what to do. And I called my doctor and I said, is there any other medication that we could take that can still do something? He was like, oh, I didn't tell you. You can contact the pharmaceutical company and they'll work with your insurance company. No, he did not tell me. So that made for an exciting day. Despite the therapy and it working well to control the amount of lesions that I had, I still had vertigo, I still had balance issues, I still get tired pretty easily, I have a lot of fatigue. So I worked with the boss that I had at the time in in Duluth who had handpicked me and said, hey, come up here and take this job. So she was great, and she worked with me, so she said, how about a 4-day work week? Those will be longer days, obviously, for you, but you'll have more time to recover from that shot that you do that gives you flu-like symptoms, and if you get too tired, then we can keep you at home on those days. So that's what we had done, and that worked really well until that boss got fired, and then I lost my boss, who I loved, and then I also lost my 4-day work week, and soon after that, lost my job. So it was a year-to-year contract situation, but I was not renewed after I was diagnosed with MS, which really made me angry. And I wasn't so concerned about me as I was about the idea that an employer could decide that they just didn't want you because you had this disease. I had clearly been doing well. The ratings were actually much better. After my audition, I won 2 Emmys while I was there. I was an award-winning sports anchor, and people knew who I was, and I had great relationships with the local sports teams. So I thought, what could we possibly do? I talked to a lawyer, and we filed an EEOC claim, which sat there for 2 years. Meanwhile, that station fired a woman for having breast cancer, and I didn't know what else to do. My lawyers finally decided, we're not getting anywhere with the EEOC thing, let's just file a suit, which we did, and then the only response from the TV station was that they would settle, but I had the choice of either taking the settlement or paying all the money from both sides if we didn't receive, go through the court case and receive more money than the settlement. So I took the settlement. I gave a large chunk of it to the National MS Society because I didn't know what else to do. And after being fired, I also had a non-compete clause, easy for me to say, in my contract, which means I couldn't work in the Duluth Superior Market. So I moved down to my hometown, moved in with my mom. We moved in with my mom. We just we just had a baby. Kind of skipped over that part, didn't I?
There are, oh yeah,
This guy right here. So this guy. After being diagnosed, I was, like many of you, I'm sure you just don't know what the future is going to hold. So I thought, well, at some point we were going to have a baby, and we'd like to have a baby. I'd like to be able to play around with them in the backyard. And I thought, the sooner we do that, the better. And luckily you agreed. and we had Quinlan, who was right there, and very surprised, but he's being used in a slideshow presentation.
Well, it looks like you cut him okay.
Yeah. And then, since I was not renewed, I ended up being stay-at-home dad because we'd moved to Minneapolis, and I was looking for my next job there, and I had to completely reinvent myself. I had to say, I'm no longer the TV sports guy. I'm the stay-at-home dad guy, which is fine. It's just, we all know this. As people, and I think especially as men, our jobs are us. And we define ourselves by our jobs. And when you interview, like when you go up and talk to someone for the first time, you say, hi, my name's Chris Nettleton. They're like, oh, what do you do? And for 15 years, my answer had been, I'm a TV sports guy. And they'd say, oh, that's cool, let's talk a little bit about that. But that had changed. Now, I wouldn't consider the year off that I had after being fired a horrible experience at all because I got to hang out with this guy, not when he's angry or big, but when he's smaller like that and smiling, and we're making faces. But that was amazing to me, just finding out how to become that other person. I was constantly applying for jobs, mostly not in the TV sector because I thought to myself, oh, if TV's going to do that to me one time, I don't know if I necessarily want to go back and try that again. While I was down in Minneapolis, my first therapy though decided to start attacking my liver. So I had to go on a different therapy, which was a daily injectable, which Megan got to do for me. Thank you. And I had a pretty horrible reaction to that medication. And I had red welts that both itched and were painful to the touch. And I had to constantly pick a different spot to inject myself. And by the time that I was back to that original spot, the welt had just started to get better. So then I added another welt. And then whenever I would put on t-shirts, it was painful because they'd rub right over that. And I was on that for a little more than a month. I went back to my neurologist in Minneapolis and he's like, I can't believe you made it a month like that. So I got put on, at the time, the only oral medication for MS treatment, and I have been on that medication ever since, knock on wood. It is working for me, and it has been really great. So I thank the National MS Society every day for all the help that they provide in trying to create those new medications, those new treatments, those new therapies that end up helping people. Because clearly after being on a couple of them, you have to try a new one, and then what happens if you run out, right? So, as I see right here, the first place they called me back after I sent out my resume was KBOI TV in Boise, Idaho. And my wife is from Sandpoint, Idaho, which is, I don't know if you know, but really far up there, about equidistance from Canada, Montana, and Washington, so way up there in the Panhandle. So I was like, oh yeah, we'll be close, but we're 9 hours away by car. So I thought, hey, maybe we'll go and try this Idaho thing out. But at the beginning of it, when I'm interviewing with these people, I don't know how much I should share, whether I should say I have MS, because I know what that meant when I did it in Duluth. And I went back and forth on it. They flew me out, and my news director there, named Julie, seemed like a real person, someone that really cared about people. So on my final day there, I thought, you know what, I'll tell them this. And I told them that I was living with MS, and Julie said, great. Which I did not think was the response that I would receive. But she said, here's the deal, we're the sponsor of the local walk, and we want you to be our face of the local walk. How about you be the MC of the event? How about we publicize the event using you and your family? And I was overwhelmed. I mean, I was over the moon. It was an amazing situation. And you end up, let's hope this works, because this is really cute. I'm Chris Nettleton with KBOI 2 News. This is my wife, Megan, who works with the National MS Society.
Do many know that Chris has multiple sclerosis, and that's why we're so excited about Walk MS?
Please join us as we walk and raise funds to create a world free of multiple sclerosis.
We want to stop the progression of MS, restore what's been lost, and end MS forever. So please help Chris cross out MS.
Blue Cross of Idaho and KBOI2 know that family matters.
That's loud.
I know, I apologize. I tried to get it down, I didn't want to do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What'd you say? I can't hear you.
I know, I made everyone deaf. This TV guy, he can't do anything right.
Yeah, you have MS.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Give me a break. All right, so just the idea of working for a station that was so involved with the National MS Society was amazing to me. And I was there for 3 years doing that. After the first year of being the MC of the walk, I had a what do I call it? Just kind of a wrap-up interview with the person debriefing. Thank you, debriefing with the local MS people, and they said, "Oh, would you like to do it again?" And I said, "Of course, I'd like to do it again. Do I just contact the same person that I had been in contact with?" And they said, "Oh, no, she left for the American Heart Association." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, so are you looking to hire someone else?" And she said, "Oh, yes." And at the time, Megan was working at Wells Fargo. And I thought to myself, she did not enjoy working at Wells Fargo. So I said, "Hey, could my wife apply?" To which who was it?
Becky.
It was Becky with the chapter in Sioux City, or not Sioux City, Salt Lake City, Utah. And she said, "Sure." But apparently we found out later that she was like, "Oh, great. This wife is going to be horrible. I'm going to have to tell her no, and then I'm going to lose my MC for the walk." But that was not at all the case, because Megan is amazing. She was able to make a connection with them and run the Boise office and do some amazing things. Your first year there, you increased walk funds by 64%. You raised 64% more funds in the first one. It's amazing. And I realized that I wanted to use my position more and more to get the word out about multiple sclerosis. So I just said yes to everything, which is why I'm here. I said yes to this as well, right? And the great part about it was that I was also succeeding at my job. 2 out of the 3 years that I was there, we won Sportscast of the Year award for the Idaho Broadcasters Association, and we got to do some amazing stuff. I won't bore you with all of this, and to be honest, you probably won't allow me to, right?
Remember when college football purists went crazy about Boise State joining the Big East, asking questions like, how can a team west of the Rockies be in a conference that had the word East right in the name? Well, I'm really going to blow their mind, because the Broncos just might end up in the Big East and the Big West all at the same time. Before we need to start worrying about their blood pressure, I've got to tell you, it's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. Boise State still won't confirm the fact they even talked to the Big West. They continue to point to Athletic Director Mark Coyle's ambiguous statement issued about 2 weeks ago. But during BSU's original search for a complementary conference to have their non-football sports, multiple reports linked Boise State with the Big West before they settled on the WAC.
And I'll give you one more. Just these are our high school shows that we're doing.
Welcome to KBOI2 Sports Overtime. I'm Sports Director Chris Nettleton, alongside everybody's favorite weekend sports guy, Troy Alvey, who's been, well, outside state lines today.
Yeah, what can I say? I get around. So's our Commercial Tire sports ticker with every local score we can get our hands on, and then some. And now to the highlights.
Without further ado,
Meridian, 3 and out, and they're going to punt. Meridian taking on Rocky Mountain.
now why did I show a punt in these highlights?
Well, punts are usually important. Quinn Mendiola down by TJ Stringer, all the way down at the one. Look at the effort from Stringer. Rocky Mountain, though, doesn't mind. Riley Bradshaw to Landry Bates, 4 yards.
No, he just keeps on going.
He just keeps on going.
It was actually 64
Down
yards.
to 64 yards. There's no 6 in front of the 4 there.
I made that mistake. That was
Dakota Wendell picks up a few hard yards of himself. That's more like 4 yards. They settle for a field goal. Grizzlies go on to win on homecoming tonight, 32-28.
Eagles taking on Centennial. Patriots, well, they scored first on a 27-yard field goal. Now, why do I show this field goal? Because it goes off the bottom and through. It's like they were playing post, and you had to hit the post in order to collect the point. That's an inside hockey reference, and I apologize for that. Anyways, yes, it is football. All right, we're talking about football. JT Williams with a shovel pass to Jake Erickson, 28 yards. That sets up a nice touchdown run for Austin Diffie. Takes it in from 1 yard.
All right, I won't try to bore you with, there was like 30 minutes of that program, so. And then I'll give you one last, because I Do you know Kristen Armstrong?
We're gonna
the
make-
Olympian, the cyclist?
We're going to make the commitment over the next 20 months, which is London 2012, and hope that I can get back into the form that I was in when I left the sport.
That was Armstrong back in October of 2010. Turns out she got back into that form after having her son and with the hiccup of breaking her collarbone just 9 weeks ago during a crash at the Exergy Tour Prologue. As you saw earlier on KVOI 2 News at 5:30, Troy Oppie joined some of the surgical staff who repaired that bone at an early morning watch party. Armstrong wasn't about to leave them disappointed. She led by about 1 second at the first checkpoint, but kept the momentum going, finishing with a time of 37 minutes, 34.28 seconds. That's more than 15 seconds faster than world champion Judith Arndt of Germany, who had to settle.
So that's what I got to do in Boise, and I really loved being able to do that. But it wasn't long before, well, I just kept worrying about the future. I just kept thinking to myself, well, all right, I'm the sports director here, in small market TV. I'm also the camera guy. I'm also the guy who edits the stuff. Am I going to be able to climb up however many flights of stairs at a baseball game to shoot the highlights, like we did for the Boise Hawks on a regular basis? Or am I going to be able to run up and down the field to shoot those highlights for football? I mean, maybe, quite possibly, but I didn't know, and I'm a planner. I've always been a planner, and I needed a plan B. So my plan B, first, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. I apologize. So that's me saying yes again to the National MS Society, the leadership conference. They called me near the end of my time in Boise. Megan had suggested that they consider me because of my TV background, and at the leadership conference, you're in front of, I don't know, how many people? 800 people, and you have these huge, like, presidential teleprompter things on each side of you, and they said, hey, he's on TV, he reads teleprompters. So I said, okay, all right, I'll do it. So I did it in 2014, which was an amazing experience. They asked me again in 2015 to come down and do it, and just last month, they asked if I would return in 2016, but get to do it here in Denver. So I'll be racking up frequent flyer miles between Minneapolis and Denver over the next couple of months. I think it's in November. So here's my plan B. I actually was concerned about trying to be able to continue to do my job, and I wanted to be able to do at least a job that was remotely like my job. So I thought, about what I should do, and my mother had just become a professor at Marquette University in the School of Journalism, and she said, you might enjoy being a professor. And I think she's right. I have been teaching kids and students how to do what I did for 15 years, the entire time that I was doing it. I always had a new weekend sports person to come in and train and to teach them how to do it, and I thought that's the way to go. Let's try that. So I enrolled at the University of Minnesota in the Mass Comm program to get my MA. And this is actually, right up here, is a real picture of me studying. This is taken without my knowledge. This is my wife going all paparazzi on me. I got very angry after she posted it to Facebook, but I decided, all right, fine, whatever. But I had to do that because my attention is not what it once was. And about a year before I enrolled at the University of Minnesota, I took a neuropsychological evaluation, and they told me I had dyslexia and I had ADHD without the hyperactivity. So I thought to myself, oh, I've always had trouble reading. I guess that makes sense. And now add that to my MS, and I have this fatigue. So I have really had to work with the Disability Resources Center at the University of Minnesota. But working with them on a text-to-audio audio program that they install on my laptop, and the university being willing to make sure that I don't have to TA for any classes before 10 o'clock in the morning, because mornings are rough for me, as you can tell. Then, I mean, they've been great. That picture down there is of Target Field. I got to participate, not this past summer, but the summer before, in an externship where I was, I don't even know what that word means, but I was a digital content consultant for the Minnesota Twins. And I got to tell them how to produce the stuff that I used to produce as a TV sports guy, but they're doing it on their website. And that kind of led to my thesis, wondering if the relationship between those two parties, the sports journalists and the professional sports teams, has changed since the professional sports teams now do the same job. And if they kind of keep some things for themselves and they let them have the other things, or how that works. So that was kind of the basis of my thesis, and I'm going to bore you with the title. Are you ready? Online video content's impact on the supportive relationship between sport organization and sport journalists. A case study of the Minnesota Twins Baseball Club and the local television sports journalists who cover them. It's a page turner. It's about 124 pages, and it took a really, really long time, but I have my MA in mass communication, and for some reason, I have decided to double down and try to get my PhD in the School of Kinesiology, which has a sport marketing doctorate. So that is what I am currently doing, and there's Megan and Quinlan hanging out with Goldie on the and my plan is to teach the next generation of sports guys and gals, like I was, and show them how to do it. And then also, teach people within sport organizations like this one, here at the Rockies, how to do what I used to do, but do it on the internet. That being said, again, I am concerned about how much time I'm able to spend with Megan, how much time I'm able to spend with Quinlan, and how much I can continue to rely on Megan to really support us. And I know it's stupid, but as a guy, you think you have to be the person that's trying to support everybody. And I struggle with that, because I bring home a stipend, Megan brings home a salary, and we're just trying to get by. So I worry about that, and I think that most guys do, but I especially worry about that because we have Quinlan and we have a baby on the way. We will have a new little boy in February, to be named later, a baby to be named later. And that's going to be a challenge for us, I know it will. But so is just kind of dealing with life after it being defined, I guess it being defined by your job, and your job defined your life. I wrote something quick, and this is what I'll end with, on the plane ride. And I don't know, I hope it means something to you, because I think maybe it was just kind of what I was thinking while I was on the plane. So it's a hard thing for me, and I'm sure many other people, especially men, to have a large chunk of what we do as people defined by our job, and then it's gone. When you meet someone new, as I said earlier, it's one of the first things they ask you, what do you do? And you have to come up with a new answer to that. Whether it is due to being let go or choosing to make a preemptive change like I did, I've come head to head with that reality, and found that, to be honest, it sucks. It's not fun and it's not easy, but it is my new reality, and it's a reality that many of us face, and one that has no real single answer and no quick fix. Acceptance, for me, is really still an ongoing process, as it was when I was diagnosed with the disease. I mean, how many of us went through that whole stage of denial, like, we'll be all right, everything will be fine. But I do believe that acceptance will come to me, and I hope to all of you, but only as we really just try to focus on who we are as people, rather than who we are as our job. And that's been rough for me. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I hope that that has been beneficial. And if you have any questions, I'll definitely take them right now. I'm going to apologize about the technical difficulties. Yeah.
When were you diagnosed?
2008.
2008?
Yeah.
And what was the medication that they started you on?
Am I allowed to say?
Say people
Yeah.
know.
There you go. Yep. That's right.
The intramuscular needle.
Yeah, and I actually preferred that to the, was it subcutaneous? Is that what it is? Daily injections? I just couldn't do it as well. And I also like to have it in once a week rather than every single day. It was kind of like a reminder, you know what I mean? Is anybody, like every day, you have to take this shot because, oh yes, I get it, I have MS. All right, I understand. But with the weekly injection, it was like, okay, I do it once a week, but the rest of those days of the week are mine. They're not MS's, you know? But that has changed, yeah.
So have you looked into rituximab?
No, to be honest, I had.
So rituximab, you only do it twice a year. And what it's supposed to do is slow down the progression of MS. And they actually use it for cancer, but studies have shown that this has been very effective with people who have MS. So yeah, just something to look at.
Sure, no, definitely.
Supposedly they're going through testing right now. There seems to be a correlation between cancer and MS.
No, they're also trying to do stem cells. So next year they're supposed to be coming out with something to where either they can repair our stem cells, so they say, or completely take away our stem cells and give us new stem cells. I don't know how that's going to work. That's just what they have explained to me. So, yeah.
Sure, great. Anybody else? Any comments, questions, concerns?
Have you ever had anybody pull away from you and with something that you don't notice immediately, but as you reflect, you realize that wasn't the same kind of interaction I would have had if they didn't know I had MS?
I don't know if I would say that it's completely pull away from you, but I do remember for the first time that you saw someone that you knew after your diagnosis. I mean, they just didn't know how to react. They didn't know how to act. Most of them don't even know what MS is. And then you end up having to be the spokesperson for MS and be like, okay, well, here's what's going on with my body, and and try to explain it to them. So that was the part that I would say that most connected with your question. But I would also say that I don't know, I just had an MS moment right there. No, but I would say that it's difficult for people just because they don't know how to react to you. And the more information that they have about it, the easier it will be. But I do worry about that. Yeah. Have you? I mean, would you be willing to share?
Yeah, that's the reason I asked that is that over time, I've noticed that interaction wasn't the same as what it would have been if they didn't know about MS. But because they knew I had MS, they're uncomfortable talking to me about my health. But you know, everybody says, "How you doing?" Well, you want to tell them, but you realize don't tell them. And you know that you shouldn't. But then there's that time when you say, "I'm sorry," and you know you can't do whatever it is because of your MS, whatever's going on. And as soon as you say that, as soon as it's out of your mouth, you realize they're going to think that's an excuse. Because you look fine yesterday. Sure. You just don't want to do this. So people, that's the reason I asked that, was I've seen some pulling back of relationships.
Yeah, no, I agree with the, maybe people not believing you completely.
Yes.
Like at the university, I've had to share that more often with people. And as I said, just to have vertigo and I have balance issues and things like that. And when people go up the stairs, I try to follow them up the stairs, but sometimes it's not as good because my main concern is that sometimes my feet get numb and I have neuropathy there, so it's not probably the easiest thing to do to go up the stairs all the time, but I try to, again, that's probably the man card in me, and I'm like, oh, I can do it, and I'll go along with these people, but when you do try to say something like, hey, I gotta do, I gotta take the elevator, or something like that, and they're like, oh, it looks fine, you know? Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
It's not a question, but we're short of time.
Oh, okay, we were short of time.
Not your fault, it started late.
We have one, I keep having to answer the one question. Yeah.
Have you felt any medications, any of the, what have you done on 3 different
Yeah.
disease models? Have you felt any medications have actually removed or corrected symptoms that you really felt clearly the medication corrected something?
Sure. I think it has all been about just keeping it at bay. I think it's been very, very even, very, okay, you're at this point right now, let's try to keep you at that point. At least that's how my neurologist has tried to explain it to me. And maybe that has something to do with recognizing it as such, as not trying to correct my illness. But I would say that it's probably still about the same. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I don't have the script on me, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. Thank you.